Would you rather live here or here? You're right, there is a catch, but it is almost definitely not what you think. I've lived in Prague for the past 4 years, and while I love this city, there is no perfect place, so here are a few cons of living in Prague. So going back to the topic of real estate, this is the biggest issue with living in Prague long term. The issue is that this flat in Prague's Holešovice cost about the same amount of money as this house in South Austin. Now it's a third the size, decades older, and not nearly as nice on any level, really. Both of these properties cost about $500,000, which is just completely ridiculous. We're talking about an apartment that's about 600 square feet. This is a perfect representation of the issue with real estate here in Prague. It is just about impossible for anyone from the Czech Republic or anyone from Prague to actually purchase an apartment. So what do? You rent. And while rent is going up incrementally each year, it is somewhat still affordable, but I suspect that won't last for long. There are several housing development projects in the works, and I just read about one this morning in Expats, which is a great resource for expats here in Prague. But I don't think that they're going to keep up with the demand, and I only see this issue getting bigger. Now, we haven't even addressed the biggest problem with this all, because real estate is rising all over the world, right? The median salary here in Prague is just about 42,000 Czech crowns a month, or about $2,000. This puts you nowhere near being able to purchase a flat. Now, I'm actually from the Austin, Texas area, and I can tell you that real estate prices have skyrocketed there as well. $500,000 for a home is also insane. But when you take into account local average salaries, it is much more reasonable to consider buying a home there. For example, in Austin, the average household income annually is around 90 grand. Here in Prague, it's only 30, so 1/3 the average annual household salary, whereas the real estate prices are about the same and you're getting much less for that money. Another thing that can definitely be a struggle when living in this city is the Czech language. Now, learning any language is difficult, but learning Czech is certainly a different beast for native English speakers. When compared to Romance languages like Spanish, French, Italian, the US Foreign Institute estimates 1,100 classroom hours to become proficient in Czech. They categorize it as a Category 4 language, or in other words, really freaking hard to learn. This is mainly because there's no overlap with English. This is a Slavic language, so totally different origins. As I stated in my previous video about things that make Prague so livable, it is quite English friendly, and you can do the majority of your daily life tasks in English. However, when looking to immerse and really be a part of the community long term, learning the local language is important. I did 3 months of private lessons twice a week, and I felt like I made zero progress. Every single word can change 7 different times. So even if you think you've got some basic vocabulary down, more than likely you're gonna say it wrong. Another challenge with living in Prague is a lack of good grocery store options or fresh food options. It makes sense, right? The Czech climate doesn't really allow for the production, for the growth of certain vegetables and fruits, certainly not exotic ones. And of course, it does make sense to eat local when you can, but growing up in the States and having this wide variety of all different food items all year round, I guess I'm spoiled with choice. In Spain, it was much of the same. Excellent produce, excellent meat selection, really fresh supermarket. Mercadona, I wish you would come to Prague. Meanwhile, in Prague, there's a very limited supermarket selection, and really none of them are great. I find myself consistently having to sort through moldy fruits and vegetables, and oftentimes not even being able to find basics like bananas. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Prague, but this is actually the start of the summer months, which quickly become my nightmare. Now, in the dead of winter, it can be super easy to daydream of a hot summer day. But the reality of Prague in summer is that it's hot and there's really no escape from the heat. I checked earlier, and the average temperature for today, May 23rd, is just 18 degrees Celsius. That's like 65 Fahrenheit. And meanwhile, today is supposed to reach 27, or about 83. And while you can get by for a while through May and sometimes into mid-June, Eventually, these buildings with their thick concrete walls heat up throughout the days and they become ovens. They start to radiate that heat inside. And once your building heats up, there's nothing you can do except wait for that September breeze. Additionally, only something like 5% of the trams have AC. So at the peak of summer, this city gets hot, it gets steamy, and there's really no reprieve. With the summer heat also comes an influx of tourists. Now, having been a tourist in this city and so many others, I empathize with tourists. I'm certainly not against people visiting cities. But Prague, being a very compact city, as I talked about in my previous video, becomes very quickly overwhelmed on a fundamental infrastructure level. Those of you who have looked up photos of Prague have probably seen the Charles Bridge or Old Town Square, which are truly magnificent sights. But going to these places midsummer is often a case of Instagram versus reality. As someone who lives here, I don't dare go to the Old Town during the summer months because it's pure chaos. It turns into Disneyland. I have no idea what can be done about over-tourism. I certainly don't want to limit people from exploring this awesome city, but it is just something you have to deal with and something that is quite inconvenient, especially during the summer and Christmas peaks. Speaking of Christmas, I know I already complained about the weather, but there is another aspect of the climate here that makes it pretty difficult to live in. During the winter solstice, the sun is already beginning to set a little after 3:30, and it doesn't rise until after 9. There's less than 8 hours of daylight in mid-December, and in reality, the majority of these days are gray and cloudy anyway. This can bring about a real sense of seasonal depression, a real sense of just like drifting through the days, no idea what time it is. Having gone through it several winters in a row, it really is a challenge. Every year I tell myself I'm going to make an effort to spend more time outside during those winter months. I'm going to be more active. I'm going to eat healthier. And every year it gets me. Now, as we talked about in the last video, Prague, with its central location, is easy enough to escape. You can get down to Spain for a week or two, and that can really help to rejuvenate you during those winter months. But it is certainly a challenge and not one to take lightly. Overall, Prague is a super awesome city to live in, and I'm happy to call it home. But as I said, no place is perfect, and this place certainly does come with its challenges, as every other place does. I touched on real estate prices in this video and talked a little bit about the cost of living, but stay tuned for a follow-up video where I break down exactly what I spend on a monthly basis to live here in Prague. Cheers.